Imagine you wake up 20,000 years ago. Nobody thinks you're attractive. You're not the strongest hunter. You're not the fastest runner. You're not the person people notice first when you walk into a gathering. And in a world where survival depends on other people, that sounds like a terrible position to be in. Today, many people worry about appearance. We see perfect faces online. We compare ourselves to strangers. We hear that attractive people often get more attention, more opportunities, and sometimes even better treatment. But what about ancient humans? What happened before mirrors, cameras, makeup, and social media? What happened when people lived in small tribes and struggled every day just to survive? If a person wasn't considered attractive, were they ignored? Were they less likely to find a partner? Did the tribe value them less? Or are we looking at the ancient world through modern eyes? At first, the answer seems obvious. Surely appearance mattered. Surely attractive people had an advantage. But the evidence points towards something much more complicated. And by the end of this video, we'll discover why people remembered who helped them survive. Question: did ancient humans even notice who was attractive and who wasn't? The answer is probably yes. Humans have always paid attention to appearance. Researchers have found that people across many different cultures often prefer certain physical traits. Healthy skin, clear eyes, signs of strength, facial symmetry. These preferences may go back a very long time. From an evolutionary perspective, appearance can sometimes provide clues about health and physical condition. But there is an important problem. When we talk about attractiveness today, we often imagine millions of strangers. Ancient humans didn't live that way. Most people spent their lives in relatively small groups. Everyone knew everyone. People saw each other every day. They hunted together, shared food together, raised children together, survived winters together. And when you know someone personally, appearance becomes only one part of the picture. Imagine two people in a tribe. One is very attractive, but selfish. The other is average looking, but reliable, skilled, and generous. Which person would you rather depend on when food becomes scarce? Which person would you trust during a dangerous hunt? Which person would you want beside you during a harsh winter? Suddenly, the question becomes more complicated. Because survival doesn't care much about first impressions. And that raises a much bigger mystery. If appearance wasn't the most important thing, then what was? Question: would a useful person be valued even if they weren't considered attractive? The evidence suggests yes. Ancient life was difficult. Food was not guaranteed. Injuries were common. Weather could become deadly. A tribe needed people who contributed. A skilled hunter could help feed families. A tracker could locate animals. A toolmaker could create better weapons. A healer could help injured people recover. A knowledgeable elder could remember where water could be found during droughts. These abilities had real value. Anthropologists who study hunter-gatherer societies often find that reputation matters enormously. People notice who helps. People notice who shares. People notice who can be trusted. And trust can be far more important than appearance. Imagine being lost far from camp. Would you rather be rescued by the most attractive person in the tribe or by the most capable person? The answer is obvious. In survival situations, usefulness becomes incredibly important. Researchers also know that ancient humans frequently lived with scars, injuries, broken bones, missing teeth, and physical imperfections. Nobody looked like a modern social media influencer. Life itself left marks on people. And yet, many of these individuals continued to live, contribute, and remain part of their communities. Which suggests something interesting. Ancient humans may have judged people less by perfection and more by what they brought to the group. But survival wasn't only about skills. There was another part of life where appearance might still matter: finding a partner. And that's where the story gets even more interesting. Question: could an unattractive person still find a partner in the ancient world? Many people assume the answer is no, but human relationships have always been complicated. Even today, people choose partners for many different reasons: kindness, humor, confidence, reliability, status, shared experiences. Trust. Ancient humans were probably no different. Researchers studying traditional societies have found that social status and contribution often influence attraction. A successful hunter might be attractive. A respected leader might be attractive. A skilled storyteller might be attractive. A person known for generosity might be attractive. Notice something important. None of those qualities are physical. They are social. They are behavioral. They are earned. Humans don't simply react to faces. We react to people. The way someone behaves changes how others see them. A person who consistently helps others may become more respected. A respected person often gains influence, and influence can affect attraction. This doesn't mean appearance didn't matter at all. It probably did. But the evidence suggests it was only one factor among many. Ancient humans were evaluating whole individuals, not just faces. Yet there was something even more important than finding a partner. Something that may have mattered more than attractiveness, status, or physical strength: staying accepted by the group. Question: what was more dangerous in the ancient world? Being unattractive or being disliked? The answer may surprise you. Humans evolved as social animals. For most of human history, survival depended on belonging. A lone person faced enormous risks. Finding food became harder. Protection became weaker. Raising children became more difficult. Recovering from injury became less likely. Researchers believed social exclusion could have serious consequences. This is one reason reputation mattered so much. People remembered who cooperated. People remembered who shared food. People remembered who caused trouble. People remembered who could be trusted. Anthropologists often describe hunter-gatherer groups as highly cooperative communities. That doesn't mean everyone always got along. Conflicts happened. Arguments happened. But cooperation remained essential. And here's the fascinating part. When researchers study traditional societies, they often find discussions centered on behavior. Who contributes? Who helps? Who cheats? Who shares? Who can be trusted? Physical beauty rarely appears as the most important issue. In other words, being selfish may have been a bigger problem than being unattractive. Being unreliable may have been a bigger problem than having an imperfect face. Being dangerous to the group may have mattered more than appearance ever could. And that leads to another question. Do we have any evidence that ancient humans actually cared for people who weren't physically perfect? The answer may be hidden in ancient bones. Question. What do ancient skeletons reveal about how humans treated one another? This is where the evidence becomes especially interesting. Archaeologists have discovered ancient remains showing people surviving serious injuries, broken bones, physical disabilities, lost teeth, arthritis, conditions that would have made life much harder. Yet these people often survived for years. That matters, because severe injuries can make survival difficult without support. One famous example comes from Shanidar Cave in present-day Iraq. A Neanderthal individual appears to have lived with significant injuries. Researchers debate exactly how much care was involved, but many agree that survival with such limitations suggests some level of social support. And Shanidar is not the only example. Across different archaeological sites, researchers find evidence of people living long after injuries that would have reduced their physical abilities. What does this tell us? It suggests that ancient humans were not simply abandoning everyone who was imperfect. They were helping each other. Not always, not everywhere, but often enough for the evidence to remain visible thousands of years later. That doesn't sound like a world obsessed with physical perfection. It sounds like a world where people understood the value of cooperation. And that brings us to the final answer. Question. What does all of this evidence actually suggest? The answer is surprisingly simple. Ancient humans probably did what humans have always done. They noticed appearance. They formed preferences. They made judgments. But they also looked beyond appearance. Because they had to. A tribe could not afford to ignore a skilled hunter, a trusted friend, a wise elder, a talented toolmaker, a capable healer, a generous provider, a reliable parent. These qualities help people survive, and survival was the most important thing of all. The evidence suggests that value often came from contribution, not perfection, from trust, not flawless appearance, from cooperation, not beauty alone. That doesn't mean appearance never mattered. It almost certainly did. But ancient life was too difficult for looks to be the only thing that counted. When your survival depends on the people around you, character becomes important. Skills become important. Knowledge becomes important. Relationships become important. And that's why the answer to our original question is so different from what many people expect. Ancient humans probably didn't spend their lives asking who looked best. They spent their lives asking who could help the group survive. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. Today, we often live among millions of strangers. Ancient humans lived among people who knew them personally. People who knew their strengths, their weaknesses, their skills, their mistakes, their value. Maybe ancient humans cared about appearance, but the evidence suggests they cared even more about something else. Whether a person mattered to the tribe. And in a world where survival depended on one another, that may have been the most important measure of all.